Linda Shodin, childhood memories. Linda Shodin's sister-in-law, Brenda Shodin, will share excerpts from Linda Shodin's journal on her memories as a lakeside kid. Could you please welcome Brenda Shodin?
I'm going to go ahead and get started. They are sorting a few technical things out for our pictures today. I am Brenda Shodin. I am neither Swedish nor Norwegian, which is how this family was formed. But I came by that name by virtue of having married Richard, coming up 44 years ago. My brother-in-law, Steve, at that time told me that I would officially be considered a Canorite when I had lived here 7 years or more. So, by his math, I have been one for 37 of my 44 years, and so have been authorized to share on our family's behalf today. I might never have remembered that if you hadn't mentioned it. It is, in my view, one of those common things that we find ourselves experiencing and saying when we share memories with family and friends. Years ago, a few family members were having a conversation about perfect moments. We went round the table and everyone, adult and child alike, was invited to name something of their perfect moments, be it a moment in time or a year or an entire experience. When it came to our daughter, Erica, then about 12 years old, she said simply, "Any time that my aunts and uncles are in a room telling stories and laughing together." Linda Shodin Miklash was one of those aunts. Born to Jean Onerheim Shodin and Edwin Shodin, Linda was the first of 7 children raised in the house that Ed built in Lakeside. Linda was bright, self-driven, creatively talented, and likely the most organized person that any of us could name. Marrying Dave Miklash in 1963, Linda's adult life took her to live in Thunder Bay, Kingston, Thamesford, and finally long-standing in Burlington, Ontario, all the while raising her 2 sons, Jeff and Sean, tending a home filled full of handmade, well, everything. Every tea cozy, wall hanging, even Dave's first business suits were hand-hewn by Linda. She worked in a fabric store for many years, though I think really as a consultant, while she developed her own skills into an expert quilter. The boys grown, Linda became an actively supportive grandmother, and she and Dave turned devoted energy to world mission. Together they created, alongside international ministries, focusing development efforts in Peru, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Liberia, where the Linda Miklash Home for Orphans is located. In the face of her well-evidenced accomplishments, it is most interesting to me that in the last months of her life, managing herself through terminal illness, Linda found her focus turning back past marriage, back past motherhood, to her childhood, to the simple things of childhood memory, images that lingered, memories that mattered. So clarion and precious did these memories become to her that Linda began to write them down. And they were compiled into this wee book by her husband, Dave. I appreciate that Linda let the memories have their sway, not crafting them. She simply got out of their way, laid them down as they came to her, trusting them to stand for themselves. And she was right. After they were shared in family and into the community, we began to hear from people, the other Lakeside kids. What seemed to resonate with people was the shared simplicity of memory, sights, sounds, tastes, unique to Kenora, to Lakeside through the lens of a well-cherished childhood. I might never have remembered that if she hadn't mentioned it, is what we've continued to hear from readers, whether they knew Linda or not. Today, on behalf of the entire family, I've teased out a few of these from her compilation, thoughts in her own voice, memories precious to her, but apparently on behalf of many. I'll just check and see if I've got, Wayne will let me know, I think, you'll let me know when anything that appears like me is up there. But it's really her voice you need to hear today, so that's just fine. Dad and Mum were married on September 12th, 1942. I came along in March 1944. They lived in the upstairs of a house across the street from Grandma Onerheim on the now Safeway Hill until they moved to Lakeside. The first home I remember living in was the small 4-room house in Lakeside. Dad and Mum begin building their dream home for our family on the empty lot beside this house. How could they ever have imagined the many lives that would be touched by their dream? When I was about 5, my mum would bring me to the men's barber shop in town to get my hair cut. My hair was so fine and straight. The barber would put a board across the arms of the chair and drape a long sheet that lay over me, reaching to the floor. Why did he have to put me right in the front window? My eyes brimmed with tears. I was sure that everyone I knew had seen me in the men's barber shop. Early each morning, we'd hear the milkman or the bread man call out at the back door. The milk came in glass bottles, and in the winter, the frozen top formed a crystal plug over the milk. Mum phoned a small grocery store in town, and they delivered everything else we needed. The days of this personal service ended when I was very young. I don't remember learning how to skate. Someone always had a small rink in the corner of their yard. Along with my friends, we figured it out together. I couldn't wait for the day I could skate well enough to go to the Lakeside Community Rink. They had lights, scratchy music over the PA, and a potbelly stove inside the skate shack. We had hours of fun learning to stop, skate backwards, twirl, play crack the whip, and stay out of the big boy's way. I stumbled home on feet that stung from the cold and felt like blocks of ice. One special memory I have was when I was young and listened to The Story Lady on our CJRL radio station. I didn't realize for many years that Kenora had always had its own story lady. I've got a picture. There's Linda with her straight hair that went to the barber. And there's Mum and Dad. And there's the house that Ed built. The story lady's voice was so effective as she covered tales from far and wide, with characters and voices that filled our imagination. Winter mornings, as we ate breakfast and got ready for school, we eagerly anticipated tomorrow's episode. Christmas Eve was a highlight story night. One of the first tests of a new bike was to come to Lakeside and ride down the crooked lane that ran off 6th Street in Lakeside. We all paid the price with many cinders under our skin. In the winter, I love to wear soft white leather moccasins stuffed with Dad's heavy wool work socks. I could slide all the way down the hill to school. Winter was one of my favorite seasons when I was a kid. Snow still lifts my spirits. Right across from our front yard was a perfect toboggan hill, and it never seemed to get sanded. So the goal was to run from the top of the hill, holding your sleigh, hit the ground with enough force that you could freely slide all the way to the bottom of the hill to beat your own last distance. Mom would put the front porch light on when it was time to come home. When the snow was perfect, it was easy to ignore this light, until the front door opened and we knew Dad would yell. It's almost impossible to believe 9 people living in one house, sharing one bathroom, one sink, one toilet, one bathtub. Today, I can't imagine how we worked it out, but I don't remember long lineups or accidents. I guess we really did live in a kinder, gentler time. The spot most in demand was the hot air register that hung above the bathtub. All the mitts and socks were hung there to dry. We didn't take baths daily, but we did sponge bath and wash our hair out in the sink a few times a week. We all smelled clean, felt clean, and we didn't even share the bath water. We bathed in about 3 inches of water, not 6 or 8. This was considered normal then. We all enjoyed excellent health. The only ones not complaining were my young brothers because they hated to bath anyway. With 9 people to eat around this kitchen table, it was a real squeeze to make family meals possible. Dad made a bench that folded up against the wall. We enjoyed the times together as a family, getting caught up and staying close. Mum took the time to prepare healthy meals, feeding hungry, growing kids, and a husband who labored at his job. We always had dessert. It was not easy. As the kids grew and the table space got more crowded, we moved into the dining room and ate supper with more space and in style. More dishes for the girls to clean up. Today, the importance of families eating meals together around table and sharing times together seems to be a bit lost. After school, we would run home to change into our play clothes. This would be a messy afternoon. The spring rains and melting snow flooded the ditches and alleyways of our streets. The wet mud is like clay, perfect for shaping mounds. We worked together and build high walls along the edges of the roads. We build diversions with the skill of any beaver. We watch with satisfaction as the street begins to flood and the puddles grow wider and deeper. The cars splash by and we cheer as the first wall falls. We watch the road run dry as we jump on and smash our mud dams. And we head home wet and muddy, excited with plans for tomorrow. When I graduated from high school in 1962, I got my first job working for Lindstrom and Nilsson, which was located on 2nd Street. I remember it as not much different from building supply stores we have today, but there was a working shop located at the back. It was strange to work with men I had known all my life who lived next door. Lakeside, where I grew up, was called Swede Town when Dad was a boy. Immigrants settled in communities together just as they do today. The Vasa Hall was the community center in Lakeside. In my youth, only the basement was finished. The neighborhood kids spent lots of time at the windows watching weddings and socials until we were chased away. This usually happened after we made too much fun of their dancing. In Lakeside, the Lovestrand family owned a Swedish bakery. The neighborhood kids nicknamed it Lovey-Doveys. A special Sunday dinner dessert was our choice from the bakery. The cream puffs were our favorite, as it was the one dessert that Mum didn't make. Swedish rye bread was born in this bakery. Mr. Lovestrand passed his secret recipe on when he retired. I don't know the journey the recipe took over the years, but I always managed to enjoy it every summer of my life. I don't remember when I fell in love with our library, but it's always been my favorite place in town. It was small then, just the building you see in front today, but it covered the world to me. Inside the front door, there was a display of bones, native crafts, rocks, and other old things of local interest. One year, I had to present a speech to my class. As I searched through the old encyclopedias, Egypt always caught my imagination, and it was easy to plan my speech. Interestingly, it was one place that she was sure in her lifetime to visit, and did. I grew up going to Sunday school at Bethesda Evangelical Lutheran Church, now known to us as Fragile Glass. Let me see if I've got the picture we want. Okay, there she is. Every Sunday morning, the bell rang so loud and clear over the community. I loved to hear this bell and the sound that it made. It made me want to run to church so I wouldn't miss anything. When I was in grade 7 and 8, on Saturday mornings, we were studied, and in May 1958, had our confirmation service with our parents and grandparents attending. Mom made me a white dress, and I was given a special bracelet and white gloves and hat and shoes. The bracelet had my initials on it to mark the occasion. I received a new Bible from the pastor, Reverend Floyd Johnson, that I still have today. The sound of fire trucks turning onto 6th Street sent Mom running to the front window. Sitting on his bike in the middle of the road in front of our house was one of our little kids. Without missing a beat, Mom was out the front door, down the stairs to the street, and picking up kid and bike crossed the road just as the fire truck roared by. Just another day in the life of Mom. I do clearly remember a summer afternoon helping Mom push the baby carriage to Lakeside Park. There's a bottle of Mom's homemade lemonade in the corner of it, and a mosquito net covers the carriage. I look inside the carriage and watch the chubby legs kicking so hard. My baby brother, Rick. I'm remembering the summer polio put fear into the hearts of our mums. I remember a boy across the street from us became ill. We spent quiet days lying around home and the yard, reading and resting in the afternoons. Everything in the kitchen was covered with cloths. Mom's adage that holds to this day, wash your hands, is still true. On Saturday mornings, we got our allowance of 25 cents. I was about 6 or 7 years old. The family gang plus neighbors headed off to the movies. It was 15 cents to get in and 10 cents for the bag of popcorn. The Rideout boys discovered Lakeside's best-kept secret, the Lakeside girls. Yeah, there we go. In our early teens, we socialized by checking out other parts of town and spent a lot of time together just hanging out. As I reflect on this story, I can't help but wonder if the Lakeside girls were passing some kind of test. The guys walked over to Lakeside, and together we explored Lakeside Park, walked down the East Highway, walked to the golf course, went to the movies and to the docks where we watched the large workhorse float planes take off and land. The guys from the Rideout seemed to have a more adventurous life, but I think being daring and perhaps needing to impress seemed to make their visits more exciting. I remember trying to walk on a boom log in Rideout Bay, balancing as we hiked over a special hidden place called Sandy Nook, walking the train trestle on an open railway track high above the entrance of the Winnipeg River to get home. We were all good friends, just having fun together, no serious dating relationships. It was a time of innocence in relationships, before attractions crept in. The first Sunday walk over to Pine Portage Road in early 1959 did bring some sparks. Our special brother Bill was the first to be a matchmaker by introducing Dave Micklash to me, and the rest is history. That's Linda's wedding picture. I don't know how they did it, but Mom and Dad made Christmas the most special celebration each year. When the decorations were dug out of the attic in December, we knew Mom was about to go into full gear. Smells of cookies and cakes and fudge that were only made for Christmas drifted through the house. Mom made special Christmas boxes filled with homemade treats and fudge for our cousins and friends. No peeking or snooping as parcels arrived from Eaton's in the mail. Once a year on Christmas morning, we had the breakfast Christmas sausage with our eggs. My mouth still waters for that today. One Christmas, Dad and Mom made for Karen, Diane, and I special doll traveling trunks. Our names were on top of the trunks, a mirror in the lid, and a removable shelf and hangers for the clothes. Mom outfitted a rubber doll for each of us, the kind that needed diapers. We each had our own color-coded set of clothes for the dolls, beautifully knitted and handmade by Mom. a labor of love from both our parents. I have my trunk in the porch at camp. I wish I still had the doll and all the outfits that Mum made. They were too well loved and played with to last through a childhood. We knew Christmas was close when Dad got out Mum's red lipstick and wrote in his artistic handwriting on our large living room mirror, "Merry Christmas and Happy New Year." Today, this mirror is in one of the bedrooms at our camp. Every time I pass by it, I see my dad putting the final touch on Christmas. Dad and Mum had some wild New Year's Eve parties when we were kids. We always had the ringside seat on the staircase. The dancing and noises grew as the evening moved on. Pots and pans rang together, horns blew, fireworks flared, and guns were shot off, not by us, by crazy neighbors. Dad always dressed up as the New Year's baby in a large diaper. The next day was always very quiet. Cleaning up the kitchen dishes was a job shared by Karen, Diane, and I. I washed and cleaned up, and all they had to do was dry the dishes. Today's memory is one of me nagging and flicking them with tea towels. Mum always said I was bossy. Mum was always ahead of the curve. To end the arguments with her 3 daughters over underwear and socks, she gave us each a color code. Mine was aqua. She made a small stitch of your color in the toe of your sock or in the waist of your underwear. Okay. And then it became, who has my socks? My girlfriends and I decided that we had to find a way to stand out from the crowd. Her core group at the time, usually always, tell me if I'm wrong, included Linda Clements, Carolyn Dorn, and Carol Markham. I don't remember how the name began, but we formed a group called The Pins. We rolled up the hem of our jeans about 4 or 5 inches high, and we pinned the oversized kilt pin on one hem on the right side. We wore them to school dances and everywhere we went. It was all just pure fun to belong to our group and set ourselves apart. There was no mean teasing that I remember. Today, 2012, our pins have not been forgotten. I still have mine tucked into my sewing drawer. I'm sure Lakeside kids were the first to taste the test study of Coke being the real thing. The Coke factory was in Lakeside on the way home from school. Friday afternoon, we patiently lined up at the back of the Coke plant where we were given one of the small glass bottles of Coke. We'd finish it off inside the building and then left the bottle when we went out the front door. They made sure we lined up only once. I remember this Coke had a special flavor unlike any since. We were hooked. A new world opened to me with the arrival of my new baby sister, Sue. I named all of my dolls Susan for years, and so it wasn't hard to convince Dad and Mum to pick her name. I still think it suits her. With 3 boys and grown-up sisters, it was a lot of fun to get into a little girl's world again. Sue didn't disappoint. Keewatin had a metal Quonset hut on the main street in town. It was a second movie theater for us. We ventured there by bus to see movies not playing in Kenora. One unique feature of the theater was the love seats. These were double-sized seats, a built-in excuse to cuddle. Going to Keewatin was a walk on the wild side. When I was 14 years old, our last baby brother arrived. Steve was a blonde, blue-eyed charmer. There was never a dull moment with him. I thought he was a born card shark because from time he was 3 years old, he had a deck of cards in his hands and wanted to play fish with me all the time. He always won. His name was Stephen Clark, but he could not pronounce it correctly, and so we always teased him with his nickname of Stephen Cluck Shodin. As I think on my sisters and brothers, I realize how much I've missed sharing time with my siblings. My life seems to have taken me from innocence to childhood to teenage and adulthood with lightning speed. I see the faces of Karen, Diane, John, Richard, Susan, and Stephen, and my mind is filled with sweet memories of a house filled with kids discovering life together. I'm smiling now as I think of what you could say about me. Take it easy on your old sister. I'm not here to defend myself. These are just a few stops on the road of Linda's childhood memories that she offered. Anyone is most welcome to read these. In addition to what you'll find of these comments in today's launch of the Common Ground book, we have some extra copies of this compilation, which has been scattered around town, and we're happy to lend them and have them shared further. We hope that some of what you've heard from her today acts as a touchstone to something of what your own childhood was and what Linda was to us. Thank you so very much for this invitation.